Tuesday. In the world of high-stakes geopolitics, a date is rarely just a date. It is a psychological boundary. It is a countdown to a potential collapse of the global order. Right now, the world is staring at a digital clock, watching the seconds bleed away toward a Tuesday deadline set by Donald Trump. This isn't just a military posture. It's a cold, calculated, and brutal ultimatum. Open the Strait of Hormuz or face hell. But look closer at the language. Trump isn't just threatening to sink ships. He has named specific targets, power plants, and bridges. This is a deliberate departure from traditional military doctrine. He is targeting the literal spark of Iranian life and the veins of their national movement. He is aiming for the switch that keeps the lights on in Tehran and the concrete that connects their cities. This is a strategic communication event designed to paralyze a nation before a single shot is fired. Tehran has not blinked. Their response was immediate, sharp, and framed in the language of international law. They have rejected the deadline, vowed to respond in kind, and branded Trump's words as an incitement to war crimes. Welcome to the ultimate information war. We are in a theater of perception where the narrative is the primary weapon and the civilian population is the target. Why a deadline? In military strategy, naming your date of attack is usually considered suicidal because you lose the element of surprise. But in narrative warfare, a deadline is a force multiplier. By naming a day, Trump has occupied every waking hour of the Iranian leadership. He has created a time pressure environment where mistakes are more likely to happen. This is cognitive warfare in its purest form. The goal is to create a collapse of will before a single Tomahawk missile leaves its tube. Trump is betting that the internal pressure, the fear of a dark, disconnected nation will force Tehran to the table. He is using the madman theory, projecting an image of a leader so unpredictable that the only rational response for the opponent is to fold. Trump is framing this as a mission to save the global economy. The Strait of Hormuz is the world's jugular vein. 20% of the world's oil flows through that narrow strip. By framing Iran as the gatekeeper of chaos, Trump positions the United States as the enforcer of order. He is telling the world, I am not starting a war, I am ending a blockade. It is a powerful narrative designed to keep global markets and political allies on his side. Tehran, however, is a master of the victim narrative. Their counterstrike is sophisticated. By labeling the threat to hit infrastructure as war crimes, they are setting a legal trap. Under the Geneva Conventions, attacking infrastructure indispensable to the survival of the civilian population is a violation of international law. They aren't just talking to their own people. They are talking to the UN, the EU, and the millions of people worldwide who are weary of forever wars. They are attempting to strip the United States of its moral high ground. If the U.S. strikes a power plant, Iran won't just show the damage to the grid, they will broadcast images of darkened hospitals and incubators failing. In the age of viral social media, a single video of a suffering child can do more damage to a superpower than 1,000 cruise missiles. This is asymmetric perception. The U.S. wants to show strength. Iran wants to show suffering. The Strait of Hormuz is only 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. But in this conflict, the strait is more than a waterway. It is a narrative amplifier. Every time an Iranian fast boat buzzes a U.S. destroyer, it is filmed and released. Iran uses these images to show their domestic audience that they are not afraid, projecting a David versus Goliath image. The U.S., meanwhile, uses its massive naval presence to project infallibility. But here's the danger. In a narrative war, the Goliath can never truly win. If the U.S. destroys the Iranian Navy, it was expected, if Iran manages to scratch a single U.S. ship, it is a global humiliation for Washington. Then there is the oil weapon. The markets don't wait for Tuesday. The information war has already hit the gas pumps in America. Iran knows that Trump's greatest domestic vulnerability is the price of oil. If they can convince the world that a strike on Tuesday will lead to $150 a barrel oil, they create a political shield. They are betting that the American voters' fear of inflation will outweigh their desire for a military victory. As the deadline approaches, the most intense fighting is happening in the invisible domains. Cyber warfare is the perfect tool for narrative warfare because of plausible deniability. Imagine if, on Monday night, the power goes out in Tehran with no missiles seen and no explosions heard. The U.S. can claim the aging infrastructure simply failed under pressure. This creates internal paranoia. Was it a hack or an internal coup? At the same time, expect a flood of disinformation. In the final 48 hours, the fog of war is thicker than ever. We will see faked intelligence reports and leaked videos of troop movements that don't exist. This is information saturation. If you can't convince the enemy, confuse them until they cannot formulate a coherent response. We are now entering the brinkmanship peak. Both leaders have backed themselves into corners. For Donald Trump, Tuesday is a credibility test. If the deadline passes and nothing happens, his art of the deal persona is shattered. Opponents from North Korea to Russia will take note. American deadlines are empty bluster. For the Iranian leadership, the dilemma is existential. If they open the strait and submit, they lose the resistance narrative that has sustained the Islamic Republic for decades. They risk looking like they were bullied, which could trigger a collapse of morale among their hardline supporters and regional proxies like Hezbollah. This is the trap of the ultimatum. It forces both sides into a position where escalation feels safer than humiliation. Iran has promised to respond in kind. This means if the U.S. hits a bridge in Iran, Iran might hit a bridge or its equivalent in a U.S. allied nation. They might target desalination plants in Saudi Arabia or the skyscrapers of Dubai. The goal isn't just military damage, it is to shatter the illusion of security. Iran wants to tell the world, if we go down, the entire region goes down with us. This is deterrence through chaos, a narrative designed to make the cost of a U.S. victory unacceptably high. The ultimate target of this deadline is the civilian mind. In Iran, the narrative is being used to foster nationalism. The government tells its people, look at the great Satan. They want to take away your light. If successful, this can turn a starving population into a defiant one. In the West, the narrative is a test of resolve. The U.S. government says, we are standing up to a bully, but there is a counter-current of war weariness. The American public is being flooded with fear narratives about another long conflict. Who is winning the information battle at home? Right, Joe? It is a stalemate between those who want strength and those who fear entanglement. As the clock ticks toward Tuesday, we face three likely outcomes. Scenario one, the face, saving de-escalation. A neutral intermediary like Oman brokers a verbal compromise. The U.S. claims Iran backed down. Iran claims they defended their waters. Both sides declare victory, and the physical war is avoided. Scenario two, the surgical strike. Tuesday arrives, and the U.S. carries out a limited, highly telegraphed strike on a non-lethal target, perhaps a signal jamming station. The U.S. narrative is, we kept our word. The Iranian narrative is, their attack was a failure. This validates the deadline without triggering total war. Scenario three, the total blackout. The deadline hits, and the U.S. goes full scale against the power grid. Tehran goes dark. The information war shifts into crisis management. Iran launches its humanitarian victim campaign, while the U.S. ramps up its order and liberation messaging. This is the path to regional fire. Regardless of the outcome, the Tuesday deadline has already changed the world. It proves that the threat of an action is often more impactful than the action itself. We are living in an era of hyperreality, where the image of the strike is more important than the bridge itself. We are seeing a superpower use psychological shock and awe as its primary diplomatic tool. But there is a dark side. When you use high-stakes ultimatums too often, they lose their power. If the world becomes desensitized to these deadlines, the only way to get attention is to make them even more extreme. As you watch the news on Tuesday, don't just look for explosions. Look for the battle of the words. Watch how the images are being framed. If you see photos of darkened hospitals, you are seeing a narrative counterattack. If you see videos of invincible U.S. carriers, you are seeing a deterrence broadcast. The Tuesday deadline is more than a military countdown. It is a masterclass in high-stakes gambling and the purest form of narrative warfare we have seen in decades. Trump is betting that Iran will blink. Iran is betting they can endure the darkness longer than Trump can endure the political backlash. The clock is ticking. The hell that was promised might be made of fire and steel, or it might be made of fear and uncertainty. But by the time Wednesday morning arrives, the rules of global engagement will have been rewritten. We are no longer spectators. We are the targets of a global psychological operation. In this war, the only way to stay safe is to keep your mind sharp and your skepticism high. Tuesday is coming. The storm isn't approaching. It's already here, waiting for the clock to strike 12. Watch the horizon, because in narrative warfare, the explosion is only the beginning.